Now first, I have to tell you about Mrs. Ernest Evans, or Chubby Checker's mama. But first, I gotta tell you about Chubby Checker. So he was born Ernest Evans and was a popular artist back in the wop bop a loo bop a bop and boo era, or at least that was the era I associate him with. He basically popularized the twist, but I'm not saying he created the twist. I'm not saying he started the twist. I'm just saying that he popularized the remake of the song. In January 1963, Chubby was in the Philippines and met Harlem-born Catharina Lodders. She had just won the Miss World pageant 2 months before representing the Netherlands, and he was in the Philippines performing. I'm not sure when they began to date, but in October 1963, they were seen out and about in London. The magazines wanted to know what was going on, so they reached out to Chubby and said, all right, what's going on with y'all? Y'all about to get married? And he said, quote, he's too young to marry. But just 2 months later, on December 12th, 1963, Chubby would propose to Catharina and she would say yes. And at that point, she was 21 and he was 22. So, you know, just 2 months later, now we're old enough to get married. Well, the following April, there were rumors that Chubby and Catharina's engagement was about to be called off. And this was because there were reports that she just left and went back home to Holland, where Chubby's manager, Henry Colt, would say that she had some modeling obligations she had to take care of before her Miss World 1962 reign came to an end. And his manager also denied one of the major barriers in their relationship, Chubby's mama. Because that spring, Chubby's mom, Mrs. Evans, showed her entire behind. I'm telling you, this lady showed out. She drove to church wearing this mink coat that Chubby gave her, sat through the entire sermon, and then afterwards wanted to say something to the congregation. Mrs. Evans gets up and says, quote, I want all of you to pray with me this morning that God keeps my son from getting married to that white girl. She's ruining his life. Now she kept going on. She was like, just because Ernest is my son doesn't make him any different. He should marry a girl of his own color. This girl doesn't really love him. She's just marrying him because he's Chubby Checker. Now this vigor from his mom made Chubby go into hiding in New Jersey after moving out of his family home. Catharina was staying at the home too until she was kicked out by his mom. Mrs. Evans said, quote, I told him I couldn't stand her around here anymore. Now you have to remember, this was about 3 years before the Supreme Court would allow for interracial marriage to be legal. Even though it wasn't uncommon to necessarily hear of an interracial relationship, it did not mean that it was widely accepted. Like around this time, Chubby was apparently doing a free performance for an NAACP benefit and was booed before he even got the chance to begin. That poor man just ended up canceling the whole performance, but his mama poured salt in the wound and was like, basically that's what he gets. She said, quote, that girl has wrecked his career and scandalized his family. She's nothing, just nothing, and she's nasty. His mom went on this long diatribe about this girl. She said that this girl took him away from the church and that he don't care about his mama no more. She just went on and on and on. Girl. But Chubby, who is obviously extremely hurt by his mom's words and actions, said that this would not deter him from marrying the love of his life. So on April 12th, 1964, at Temple Lutheran Church in New Jersey, Chubby and Catharina got married. And afterwards, they moved into an apartment in Philadelphia. And as for his mom, Chubby said he straightened that out. And the real issue actually was because of the language barrier between his mom and his wife. Now, personally, I don't know about that, but his mom would have had to have gotten over it, because let me tell you this, Chubby and Catharina are still married today. They're both in their 80s and have been married for almost 60 years. Actually, next April will make 60 years. I know times have changed, but my goodness. Now, of course, you're going to have to tell me what you think, because I know y'all have feelings all about this. But anywho, don't forget to follow us here and everywhere you can, especially the two of you, because you could just watch the whole entire episode right now if you go over there, or listen wherever you get your podcasts. And come back tomorrow for another mother of an episode of I'll Tell You What, brought to you by Hueido.